Oh, hey, welcome to Effective Change and our Focus on Fiction section. As you already know, fiction gives an escape from reality, and sometimes it offers a different perspective of it. Our Focus on Fiction segments offer a variety of stories and series to help you get away for just a little while. I've put links in the descriptions to the original author's work and their profiles. Be sure to check it out. There will be a lot of stories from a lot of writers coming up, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when the new story comes out. I've also included a link to support me through Ko-fi and PayPal, should you be so generously inclined. And without any further ado, let's get into today's story. Sorcerer, Chapter 2, The Lizard, by JFDanskin. "Shit, Sprig!" cried Alcar. "Run!" Sprig didn't need to be told twice. As the alligator opened its jaws, the pair set off, running after Olinka, who had soon looked around and spotted the beast too. She ran with them, all of them in silence for a minute. When they stopped, panting, Olinka began to laugh.
"Oh, by the gods! You should have seen your faces."
"What are you laughing for?" said Alcar. "We were only making a tactical retreat." She sniggered.
"You both look like you had crapped yourself. Sorry, but it's true."
Alcar looked at Sprig. The big youth was still looking terrified, it had to be said. He hoped he didn't look quite as silly. "Well, it is only a dumb animal," he said. "I didn't want to harm it with my dagger." Olinka laughed again, a loud peal of laughter, throwing her head back. Then she looked back at Alcar.
My dude, you call that a dagger?"
Alcar was starting to regret inviting Olinka to come along. She may be new to their group, and that made her something of a celebrity, but she was rude and cocky to boot. "Come on, both of you," he snapped, leading the way. "I'm in charge of this mission, and laughing at each other is bad for morale. Hopefully this way we can find another path back up the west side of the farm." "What about the goblin that we're after?" said Sprig, blinking. Olinka sniggered again.
"I don't think there ever was a goblin, was there?"
But she smiled and held up her hands.
"It's okay, Alcar, really. When I lived in my village, we went on loads of little adventures. It's fun, really. I'm kind of glad we don't have to kill a goblin. They may be devious little shits, but I don't think I'd want to murder one in cold blood just to steal its silver."
Murmured Alcar. "It's possible that you're going to suck as an adventurer, then." "Goblins deserve to be killed," said Sprig. "They're vile, cruel." "He has a point," said Alcar with a shrug. They were passing by the foot of another field, marked by a partially broken down horizontal wooden fence, and bales of hay could be seen to their right, just beyond a few scrappy and moss-covered trees. Clearly they had not gone too far from civilization. Olinka was still walking a fraction ahead, but suddenly she stopped, holding her bow out in front of them. "Shh!" "What is it?" cried out Sprig loudly, his voice carrying across the stagnant water. But they all saw soon enough. A head was rising from the water, a large, lime-green, scaly head. "Is that another alligator?" murmured Alcar, gripping his knife so tightly it was shaking. But the head kept rising, revealing a long neck, dripping water. The beast that was emerging was clearly enormous, twice the size of a horse, and with a mouth that was just as large as the alligator, although shorter and not as toothy. As the trio watched on transfixed, the beast raised one dripping claw from the water and thumped it down on the path in front of them, leaned towards Alcar, and snorted, blasting him with a spray of foul-smelling water. "It's a lizard man!" gasped Sprig. "No, it isn't," said a voice from behind them. Alcar rolled around to see a human-sized figure in bronze chainmail, a leather bandolier of knives, and steel helmet that only partially covered the wearer's face. And the face itself was scaled, slightly pointed with flared snake-like nostrils.
"Now that's a lizard man,"
said Olinka, lowering her bow. She then pointed back to the monstrous creature that was still emerging from the water.
And this is a corrupt lizard, right? A steed?
A steed? The figure nodded. Well done, girl.
The name's Alinka.
She looked back at the monstrous creature, which was now standing patiently and unthreateningly on the edge of the water.
Is this thing yours?
To an extent, yes, said the stranger, ducking under the horizontal slats of the fence and stepping out onto the path towards them. He reached out, speaking a mysterious clicking language, and then the great beast settled down further to a crouching position, its forearms visible but the bulk of its body within the swamp water. The armored figure then turned back towards the three adventurers. As your friend said, this is a corrupt lizard, he said. They are rare, but some of my kind use them for transport around the swamps. They can't be used on normal roads, at least not much. Their scales would dry out too quickly. I see, said Alcar. Alcar had backed several paces away from the corrupt lizard, but he now looked up at the stranger. So, are you traveling into the swamp? Well deduced. The armored lizard man turned and reached out a scaled hand towards Alinka, who shook it, and then held his hand out to Alcar. My name is Warlick. Alcar. Warlick took a step back and began to rub gently at the brow of the huge, passive, corrupt lizard. I'm a member of the Zula tribe of lizard folk, but I rarely return to the Great Swamp. I'm something of an outcast among my people, and normally travel on adventures and quests. His eyes were jade green with black pupils, and they flicked from one of the youths to the other as he spoke. Alcor noticed that he had a sword sashed in his belt, in an ornate, jewel-encrusted scabbard. Perhaps we can join you sometime, suggested Alcar.
Yeah,
said Alinka, grinning.
Truth is, we're all pretty new at this.
You would have to accept me as your leader, though, said Alcar thoughtfully. And even with you on the team, we're still keeping Sprig here. Warlick made a low warbling sound in his throat, which could have been a laugh. It's a tempting offer, my friends, he said. And if I was free to do as I like, then perhaps I would come along with you on a mission or two. You already have a group, I guess, said Sprig. Warlick inclined his head slightly towards the big youth. To an extent, young human. I used to travel extensively with a group of adventurers, but those days are long gone. Occasionally I think of getting the group back together, but... He stared off over the swamp and fell silent.
Are they other lizard folk?
Prompted Alinka. Warlick shook his head. Not all of them, young woman. There was an archer from my clan, a ferocious warrior by the name of Loxar. Besides her, the most recent group that I quested with consisted of a warrior by the name of Galen, a witch called Malaki, and a sorcerer by the name of Malok. We were a formidable force, one of the strongest bands in the Empire at one point. Our clients included the von Dothmere family, for example, but that seems a long time ago now. In fact, it feels like I've been in a daze for many years and have only just awoken. And now it's time for me to right some wrongs, starting with my own lizard clan. What happened with you and the other adventurers? Asked Alcar. It had occurred to him that this first-hand account could provide some guidance about his own fledgling leadership of an adventuring band. Malaki moved to the islands of Dabasa, last I heard, he replied. Moloch lives locally, but we haven't spoken in a long time. I'm not sure that he's even still talking to me. And as for Galan, well... The lizard man frowned, looking to the west for a moment. Sadly, he joined the Varians. I can't blame them. A swordsman of that quality? The less said about him now, the better. Hey, man, said Sprig.
Lizard,
corrected Alinka. Yeah, Sprig continued, looking confused. Well, I just want to say, don't be a stranger. To your old adventuring buddies, I mean. You should go look them up. I hear you, young human, said Warlick, drawing a gleaming katana sword. As it happens, I think you are right. I will make my way now to the heartlands of the Zula clan to seek out Loxar. He showed his teeth. Sorry that your quest to the swamp wasn't more lucrative. Here, have a few coppers on me, from one adventurer to another, because everyone has to start somewhere." With this, Warlock reached into a pouch in his belt and pulled out a handful of copper rigs, giving each youth 4 of them. "Thank you kindly," exclaimed Alcar, and the others nodded.
"That will help us save up for adventuring equipment when we get back home," added Alinka.
"Indeed, and perhaps I will see you in Katrisburg if you make it back safely," said Warlock. "Talking of which, I think you should hurry." He now pointed his sword to the shore in the direction they had been going, and Alcar spied movement. "Those, if I am not mistaken, are swamp gremlins on the move. Very nasty, and above your level of experience, my young friends. You need to get out of here while you can. Duck under this fence here, keep to the left, and when you get to the end of the farm, run like hell until you reach the city walls." Moments later, Alcar, Alinka, and Sprig were running, and they took only the briefest of glances as Warlock departed, riding the Corrupted Lizard. Alcar took one step back, and then another, his eyes widening as he looked at the approaching band of swamp gremlins. I know you enjoyed this story. Show your support to the writer by following the links in the description and sharing it with your friends. Support this channel with likes, shares, and by subscribing. Any donations are greatly appreciated as well.